my beautiful people, thank you guys so much for joining me today. What we're gonna do today is test out, play around with drugstore primers. Now, a lot of the companies from the drugstore have been coming out with new primers, so I have about 12 or 13 different primers from the drugstore that I picked out. I tried to do most of the brands, and then some brands had different finishes, so I tried to get maybe like one of each. So today we're gonna be going over those. Hopefully you guys will be able to get something out of this video depending on your skin type and what your skin behaves like. I actually, in the beginning, wasn't sure how to do this video because there is so many primers, but I think I'm just gonna jump in and do the intro with you guys right now, and then I'm gonna move the camera to give you guys like a better visual, testing them on my arms and swatching them and just telling you guys a little bit more about them. Now, if you guys are wondering what's on my lips, I absolutely love this deep red burgundy type of shade. It is the new lipstick from the Lipstick Queen collection from their chest collection. This is in the shade Rook, and it is just absolutely a stunning color. It's beautiful on your lips. The formula, Lipstick Queen, has absolutely amazing formulas, and they're super hydrating, and they're just absolutely great. So that's what's on my lips. Another thing I wanted to share with you guys and tell you guys how nicely it worked is this Eco Tools sponge that looks like this. It's actually a very unique shape of a sponge because it's kind of cut on the edge, and it's still kind of like a tear shaped with the actual sides trimmed. And this is beautiful because the softness, this is actually dampened, and the softness, it's really soft, so you can just use it all over your face. Then you can use the edge and the smaller little portion to maybe either bake under your eyes or for concealer setting. And then it has like a larger side for maybe like contour, outline, or you can also set under your eyes with this or contour your nose or whatever else you may do. So I feel like this is a perfect multitasking sponge, and it is very soft and it just blends your makeup really beautifully. Alright you guys, so let's get started exploring drugstore primers, and if you stay all the way to the end, I will tell you my preferences and my opinion and what I preferred over some other ones. So I do have quite a bit of primers to test out. I've actually used every single one of these on my skin at least twice in order to see if I really like them or not. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and let's get started. Okay, so here are all the primers that I collected and bought over the past few weeks. So I actually have them in 2 rows, and I'll disclose why in just a second. It's funny actually because just not too long ago, even last year, the drugstore did not have almost any primers, and now every single brand is coming out with actual face primers. One other one that I also saw that I didn't purchase is the Physicians Formula, just because everyone was complaining about how awful it is and the pump wasn't great, so I did not purchase that one. But I have, I think, 12 or 13 here from as many brands as I could get my hands on. And so let's get started. I'm just gonna go one by one and kind of talk about them, and we can swatch them, and I'll tell you how these worked out for me. So this first one is the L'Oreal Paris Magic Lumi, and this is a more of a light infused primer. So when you put it on the skin, it has this really nice pearly iridescence to it, and they also have this one in a color correcting one, a green one I believe. And so this one, as you guys can see, it's more of like a white, but it has like that pearly finish, and when you actually rub it in the skin, this is going to be great for those of you who really like that nice glow that might have maybe drier skin, because it is really hydrating. So overall I do like this one, especially for under makeup in the summertime, to give that really natural glow from within. Now this next one is from Maybelline. This is Baby Skin, and this is an instant pore eraser. So the texture of this is actually like a little silicone-y texture, and it's clear. It's kind of like a jelly. It reminds me of maybe like the Smashbox or Porefessional, and I really like this one just because this is not as hydrating, but it is very pore filling and blurring. I don't know if you guys can see the difference, but I have almost no little fine lines or wrinkles on my hand, and it's an absolutely great primer for the blurring effect. So even if you use a regular moisturizer or even more of a hydrating primer, you can take this and just pat it on your spots where you have larger pores or where you're really shiny and the T-zone. So I really like this one on its own or in a combination with a different moisturizer or hydrating primer. Alright, this next one right here, this is, I feel like, a newer edition from NYX, and this is the Hydra Touch primer base, and this is what it looks like on the skin. It comes out like a jelly type of a really light blue, but it's almost clear when you smudge it out. But when you rub it in, this one is extremely hydrating, and it feels like it's really filled with a lot of water and hydration, and I feel like this would be great for really dry skin. And this reminds me a lot of the Pixi H2O skin drink. I feel like it has the same kind of wet feeling. Pixi one is much more kind of watery, but it kind of reminds me of it, and it's very hydrating and very moisturizing, and it doesn't leave your skin too like sticky or tacky because all the moisture just gets absorbed into your skin. So I do enjoy this one. This next one is actually one that I picked up from Ulta. This is Makeup Revolution Pro Base Blur Primer, and I didn't even know that they had a primer. This is an exclusive brand just to Ulta, but it is a drugstore price. So this is a primer. I love the fact that it comes in this little package and the pump is super convenient, and you squeeze it out. And this one looks like it doesn't have any kind of blurring properties, and it actually, I don't know if you guys can see, it has little sparkles of yellow gold. It has little gold reflex. It's not actual glitter, but more like slight shimmer. I don't know if you guys can see that in the camera. Do you guys see the tiny little glitter specks? And it's completely clear, and when you rub it into your skin, I feel like this is just a grease disaster. I've tried this under my makeup, and my foundation would kind of skip on it, and it never dries down. It never kind of gets absorbed by your skin, and you're left with this super messy, greasy type of feel. And the only great thing about this one is that it smells so nice. It has this like really nice of a fragrance, which I feel like it smells the best out of all these primers, but it performs really poorly. And I don't know who this would like work for, unless you have like extreme dry skin and you do really light foundation. Maybe that's when it would work. But for me, I feel like even if you were to have dry skin, I don't think this is like oil-based primer where it actually gets absorbed by your skin, because I've had this on my face on its own before I put on makeup for a good maybe 10-15 minutes, and it does not get absorbed. So as you guys can see, the shininess on my hand, it just stays that way the whole time. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm not going to wipe this hand because I've been wiping after each primer swatch. So I'm just going to leave this hand just as it is, just so you guys can see how shiny my hand will be for the next few minutes. Okay, now moving on, this is the NYX Angel Veil. It was actually really hard to find this primer. A lot of people on YouTube rave about this primer, and I wanted to get it just to see what all the fuss is about. And in all honesty, this was $15.99 at Ulta. This was the most expensive primer out of all these primers that I've gotten. And I'm going to have all the prices listed right next to all the primers. This is what it actually looks like swatched. It comes out, it's more of like a pore filling primer, because when you rub it in, it becomes clear and it's a pretty thick consistency. A lot of people rave about this because they say that it has like that hydration and the silicone kind of pore filling properties. It is a good primer. Like, I do really like it. My skin is really soft. It does work beautifully under makeup. But for me, for that price range, I rather add another, $5 and buy like a higher end primer that I know is gonna work for me, like the Professional or like my Hangover by Too Faced. Okay, now moving on, I bought this Almay Smart Shade Primer just because of the packaging, it just looks so cool. It's like 2 different layers, a purple and a green spiral going up, kind of frozen jelly. Do you guys see that? It looks really cool. But when you squirt it out, this is the color that it comes out in, and this is a very colorful primer. So when you rub it in, the color pigmentation is still there, even when you try to rub it in a lot and kind of blur things out. This, I feel like, is very hydrating. It doesn't have that slippery feel to it, and it is really nice for whoever needs to have like skin color correcting done. So if you're suffering from really like irritated red skin, if you have a lot of red spots on your face, or if you have, you know, kind of blotchy areas or just a lot of redness in general, that's when I feel like this primer would be great. Just because, as you guys can see, it does have a really pigmented green tint to it, so it does cover up redness very well. So that's the kind of skin I would definitely recommend this for. Okay, moving on to the NYX No Filter Blurring Primer. This is what this primer looks like. It's a little bit pigmented, as in like an orangey foundation skin color pigmentation, just for like a brightening effect. I feel like this primer is really nice. I feel like it has a nice scent to it. I feel like it is blurring and fills in your fine lines and wrinkles or any unevenness. I do feel like it is pretty hydrating without the actual like greasy slip. So I really enjoyed this primer, and I was actually surprised that one of my favorite primers from this collection is going to be the NYX, but I do really enjoy it. I feel like it sits beautifully on the skin, and it just has a really nice texture overall. Now the next one is also from NYX, and I actually have 4 NYX primers together because they came out with a whole variety of different primers, and this one is the HD Studio Photogenic primer, and this one is a really light white blue of a tint. First of all, this one does not have the most pleasant scent, and even though it does feel hydrating, it's not like a completely blurring primer, and that might be a good thing for a lot of you guys with drier skin. But overall, I would say pass. Now, as I mentioned earlier, why I have these separated into 2 rows is because of the scent. Now, all the ones on the bottom have a very either unpleasant smell or very chemical scent, or this one, for example, the e.l.f. Poreless Face Primer, this one actually smells like eucalyptus, so very herbally. So if stronger scents or like chemical scents and smells of either foundations or primers bug you guys, I would completely avoid this whole bottom row, because in my opinion, these bottom ones do have that strange scent to them. For me, if I apply something on my face and I can smell it right away, especially either primers or foundations, I can't stand that. These I would avoid if you're sensitive to any kind of fragrance. Now, the second one is Stay Matte Rimmel. These actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This 5 right here has a very similar consistency to the primers. So they're all gonna be kind of white and more hydrating than blurring. And let me actually show you. I'll squeeze all 4 of them side by side just so you guys can see. And then this is a newer CoverGirl one. And then this Milani one, another primer I wanted to try was the Prime Milani one, but they were actually out of it everywhere. At the drugstore, online, it was sold out. So this is one that I got. And with this one, I don't know if you guys can see, but I used this primer 3 times, and I feel like once I opened it, it came almost half empty. I feel like it's another one of those like half empty potato chip bags, because look at this, and it's still not barely coming out now. Do you guys see that? Like how trickery of a packaging this was? Like it was half or more even empty with the product in there. So these are the four. So this first one is the Rimmel Stay Matte. This one is the Wet n Wild Primer Base. And then the third one is the CoverGirl Outlast. And then you have the last one, which is Milani. And then let me actually just squeeze this e.l.f. one on here as well. And this one is a little bit more of a thicker consistency compared to the other four. And I feel like these four kind of fall into the same category of being more hydrating than actual like pore filling silicone feel. Except this one, I feel like this is like a more of a hybrid. And the e.l.f. one really reminds me of the Angel Veil, but the scent is a little bit more eucalyptic. So I feel like for these four, they have very similar properties, so it's kind of hard to distinguish between them. This Milani one smells really bad, and I feel like it has little tiny like chunks or particles, like it's not fully mixed completely for the formula to be extremely smooth. The CoverGirl one is also just hydrating. The formula might be a little bit smoother, but it's a very similar consistency. And same thing with this Wet n Wild one and the Stay Matte Rimmel. That'd be it. Those are my kind of thoughts on all these primers and what they smell like, what they preform like, what their consistency is. Now, out of all these, I already eliminated the first row, so those I'm not going to be using whatsoever. Now, from these ones that are left, just so you guys can see visually, do you guys see this Makeup Revolution is still shiny and greasy and oily? Even though this smells the nicest out of all these primers, it's gonna be a no-go for me because I'm just not gonna get any use out of it. Now from these that are left, Pixie isn't really a primer, it's just like a hydrating gel, so I'm just gonna put this one aside even though I do enjoy it. And from these that are left, this one, like I said, it's very pigmented. So maybe you can spot treat your face if you have any redness in a particular area. But for me, I feel like it's a little bit too pigmented. So I'm going to toss this one. Now from these five, I would eliminate this Angel Veil because even though it is really nice, I don't think $16 plus tax is worth it, so I'm gonna skip on this one. And these would be my top 4 drugstore primers, depending what you look for. So this one is my number 1 for illuminating skin. This is my number 1 as a pore filling primer. This is my favorite hydrating primer, and this is kind of a great primer overall. I feel like it's a combination of hydrating and pore filling, and it doesn't have a foul scent, so I really just like this overall in general. So hopefully you guys enjoyed exploring drugstore primers with me. Out of all the primers that I've tested, that I've tried out, with the qualifications of being hydrating, blurring, having a pleasant scent, and mixing in really well with my makeup, my number 1 winner out of all these primers would have to be the NYX No Blur primer. It is just absolutely gorgeous. I feel like it qualifies under all my expectations of a primer, and out of all the primers that I've played around with and I've tried, this one just works beautifully on all the levels. So it is pretty hydrating. It is blurring, it definitely doesn't like have a bad scent, and it really blends beautifully with the makeup. So this is definitely the winner for me. Hopefully you guys enjoyed exploring this drugstore makeup with me. If you did like this video, please give this video a thumbs up just so more people can see it. So I did this video not to only just give you guys like my preferences, but I did this video to give you guys a wider range of the descriptions of the primers, because especially drugstore makeup is not on display to test out. So hopefully this really helped you guys, and thank you guys so much for all your love and support. So thank you guys so much once again for joining me today. Lots of love from me to you. I will see you guys soon. Bye.